Okay, let me get your attention. Sorry to be a little bit delayed starting. I've always wondered, what would it be like if I showed up to teach my undergraduate class and suddenly discovered that I left my iClicker base back in my office? I just found out. It means you run really hard and you come in really sweaty. So I apologize for that, but I do have my clicker base. Fortunately, I only work a few hundred yards from here, or my office. Okay, so what about lecture 3? So a couple of announcements. Don't forget, your syllabus contract needs to be signed, turned into your GSI as soon as possible before the end of your second GSI section. Problem set 1 is due on Tuesday. I strongly suggest that you form a study group as soon as possible. I'm guessing that most of you have already discovered from your own experience that being in a study group is extremely valuable. If not, I would say you need to do so as quickly as possible for your own benefit. And if you feel shy about doing that, my suggestion to you is try to overcome your shyness. It will be worth it to you. Sometimes if I'm feeling incredibly shy or resistant, I'll write something down and sort of hand it to someone. I can't tell you this directly, but I can show you in writing. The other thing I want to re-emphasize, this is in the syllabus, but I don't think I emphasize it as much as I would like to. I do strongly encourage you to work in a group, but I also very strongly encourage you not to use the time-honored divide and conquer strategy, right? Where each person takes a problem or a section of a problem. Why? Because the point of the problem sets is not, in fact, for you to demonstrate to me that you deserve an A. The point of the problem sets is for you to understand material well enough to be able to go into an exam and demonstrate to me that you deserve an A. And divide and conquer undermines that, right? So try every problem on your own before you get together with your study group, and I think you'll do better. The solutions will be posted online as soon as the problem set has been turned in. The solution sets, my solutions are pretty extensive. I write quite a lot in my solution sets because I kind of like to sort of explain what's going on as we go along through the answer and why it is what it is and what it means and so forth. I would encourage you to treat the solutions to the problem sets as if they were required reading. But again, as I said, this is the third time I've said it. I promise I won't say it again. Some of you will have access to last year's solutions. The problem sets are the same in some cases, not the same. I really strongly discourage you from using that, not because not because it would be cheating and I would be offended by that, but although it would, but because it really will undermine your learning a lot. Okay, that is all I have to say about that. So here's the outline for today. We are talking about reference-dependent preferences. This is day 2. I think that there are 5 lectures on this topic and then a midterm. Has everybody noticed on the syllabus how early the first midterm is? Okay, I do that for a reason because I want you guys to be able to get some feedback on how you're doing as quickly as possible in the semester. So we're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk about okay, hang on. Now everybody else is talking except me. You know how much I hate that. Okay, thanks. So some psychological findings that can help explain the endowment effect, and then we're going to sort of expand from the endowment effect to a much broader sort of generalizable phenomenon, which is this reference dependence concept that shows up in very, very many places. And we're going to introduce into that the concept of loss aversion. Not only do we compare what we've got to some reference point, but we tend to care more about falling below the reference point, a loss, than we do about going above it, a gain. And then we're going to start actually doing some modeling. So, so last time, we established this phenomenon called the endowment effect. Definition of it: an individual's monetary valuation of a good depends on whether or not they are initially endowed with the good. Okay? And we talked about that in terms of sort of gains and losses, but this is a very specific example of gain and loss situations in which your valuation depends upon whether or not you're endowed with something, which then tells us something about whether you experience an exchange as either a gain or a loss. So it appears that giving up units seems to affect people more than gaining them. Now, remember the process that we're going through here. So we're sort of going through the same process as the sort of historical process that behavioral economics has gone through. First, I presented you with a chunk of the standard model and its implications. Right? The implication being that willingness to pay and willingness to accept should be the same thing, that the demand curve should be the same going in either direction. Then I presented you with a phenomenon that cannot be explained by the standard model. Right? We call this an anomaly. And we went through some gyrations dealing with the income effects to really convince ourselves that indeed the standard model cannot explain this anomaly. Great. So we've done that. The next 2 steps in this process, we're going to go to psychology, the field of psychology, and say, hey, because we're economists, we are simultaneously, in a weird way that's a little bit hard to explain, very, very smart and also very, very stupid. And we need your help with a place where we're stupid, which is we don't actually understand human beings very well at all. Psychologists study actual human beings. We study little toy models of human beings. So we go to psychology and we say, are there findings in the field of psychology that could point us towards a good explanation for why we see the anomaly that we see? And then we're going to take that. We're going to say, okay, thank you for getting us to the stupid part of the puzzle, the part where we're stupid. Now we're going to go back over to where we're really smart, which is turning things like that into mathematical models. Right? That's what economists, one of the things that economists are supposed to be good at. And then because we are, so the way that behavioral economics, a lot of people come and they look at economics and they say, your models are ridiculous, they're reductionist, they're insulting, they don't do a good job of predicting reality. You need to start from scratch. You need to do some artificial intelligence modeling. You need to come up with a learning machine of some kind. Well, here's what happens if you're an economist and you start talking like this. You start being treated like a non-economist real quick. And people don't publish articles and they don't hire you to teach in their schools, and all of a sudden you have nothing to say to other economists because they're not listening. Okay? Now you might say, here's what economists are listening. Well, here's why you should care. Because who listens to economists? People with lots and lots of power. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm grandiose or arrogant or insulting, but do you know who listens to psychologists? On a good day, yes. The fact of the matter is that the tables are tipped in favor of the power that economists have in public policy realms and so forth. So the agenda here in behavioral economics is to change economics from the inside, right? This is actually much more challenging than to go off, on your own with a group of other people who agree with you and come up with something that might very well be vastly superior to neoclassical economics. If nobody listens to you, you haven't actually made very much progress, in my opinion. So the point of all that is to say that what we do once we turn to the psychologists, we come back and put our economist hat on, and in particular, we go back to the standard model. And we say, we're going to hang on to utility maximization as a basic assumption about how people choose. We're going to hang on to the idea that we can write down a mathematical version of people's preferences in the form of a utility function. We're even going to hang on to most of the basic structure of the utility function and the decision-making process, but we're going to try to insert some extra little pieces, some additional parameters, some assumptions about the shape of utility functions or the way people make their choices, so that when you look at the model, you'll still recognize it. So it's like you're nesting your behavioral model inside the standard model so that you can still see the shape of the standard model, and you've added this little piece that makes it better. And you'll see exactly what I mean by that. So that's what we're going to do today. Then we're going to discuss the implications of the new model and what they might have to say about public policies and applications and so forth. That's down the road. Okay. Clear? Good? Everyone on board? Buckled in? Okay. iClicker question. 2 pictures of Olympic athletes. You can see that each of these women is wearing the red ribbon of a medalist. The question is, which one of them is understanding on the podium? This is photographs taken of them standing on the podium getting their medals. Which one of these athletes is receiving a bronze medal, and which bronze medal, and which one is receiving a silver medal? Go. Wait, what? What did I do? What? How is it an eye clicker question? This person is A and that person is B? Wait, what am I doing? I'm being stupid. What am I doing wrong? That's a really interesting point. So can I tell you what's actually the most interesting thing about that? Nobody asked that question last year. I don't know how we got through this. Okay, and I also don't know how to use the eraser. Okay, so yeah, that's really good. So the question is, which one of them is receiving the bronze? Okay, okay, go. Okay, now we get to see how many people are auditing. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, zap. Now, do I want to show you the answers to that? I don't think I do. No, I'll show you your answers. Whoops, that's not showing answers. There we go. That's question 2, there's question 1. Okay, fine. So a not perfectly even split, about 1/3, 2/3. About 2/3 of you think that it's B. Who wants to explain to me why, in fact, the correct answer might be A? Yes?
Because that girl seems pretty pissed. And, like, she's trying to and I don't know, from an American point of view, I hated it. I went first and I got second, and it's just kind of moving.
So you're saying that you're defending an A answer or a B answer?
A answer.
So that would mean this woman is the bronze? Okay, so you want this, whoops, okay, so wait a minute, just go away, will you? You want this woman to be the silver medalist. Because you're looking at her and you're saying, she looks like an American, and Americans, and we know that Americans just assume that they're the best, and so she's disappointed because she's fallen short of her expectations. Is that right? So, but in terms of, so we magically defined this as bronze, so that would mean that you would think that she's the silver medalist, and so the answer would be B, right? So I'm going to increase the number of people who said B by 1. You did answer B. But... Got it. I see, yeah. So anyway, what's going on there? How do people feel about this answer? What's your name, by the way? That's Alex. How do you feel about Alex's answer? Does this make any sense at all? Look, if I said to you, in 1984, I won a silver medal in racing lasers, I was young at the time, and my brother won a bronze medal in the same. Am I not doing better than my brother? Yeah.
I feel like the thing is we think we're trying to play mind tricks, so naturally you'd be like, oh, silver, you must have did better.
Oh, so you're just second guessing the instructor. Oh, you know, this is a good way to get through college. It's not a good way to get through life. No, so you guys are on the right track. So the idea we have here is that these people have some expectations, right? And they're comparing themselves to their expectations. And I think what Alex is suggesting is that if you got the silver medal, there's a decent chance that you were hoping you would get the gold. And if you got the bronze medal, there's a reasonable chance that you were expecting to not get a medal at all. Okay, fine. So let's then go from there and sort of rewind the scientific clock back to the very beginnings of the branch of psychology, or the thread in psychology that leads us where we're going. We're trying to explain the endowment effect, and what we're going to look for is signs of reference dependence in human psychology generally. So let's start with psychophysics, which is the study of how to measure people's perception, right, with their senses, vision, smell, etc. So here's vision. This is probably a lot of you have seen this. Which of the interior circles is bigger? And a lot of people will say that this one seems to be bigger, and then you take away the other circles, and you see that they are in fact the same circle. I know this because I drew them. Here's an experiment. It's not on circles, it's on squares. It's online, on BSpace. Helson, back from, I tell you, we're going way back. This is 64. So they took 4 groups, and they showed them each the same series of 7 squares that varied incrementally from 1 inch on a side to 4 inches on a side. 3 groups were shown an anchor. The 4th group was a control. And the anchor was either they were shown a very small square, 3/10 of an inch, or about 2 inches, or a 9-inch square. So first one well below the range of the 7, second one in the middle, third one well above. And then they asked them to judge. They didn't tell them the size of the squares. They asked them to judge the size of the squares on a scale from 1 to 9. And I'm very sorry to say that I don't remember the article well enough to know exactly what that scale looked like, but here are the results. A little bit hard to interpret, so let me pick it apart for you. What's going on is this scale is the dimension of the squares that they were, the size of the squares, right? The 7 squares going out that way, and this is their judgment of the size of those squares. And what you see is that the large anchor, now let me make absolutely sure that I do this right. So the large anchor group is this line, and the small anchor group is actually that line right there, okay? So if you were shown a small square, you judged all the squares in the series to be bigger than if you were shown a large square, okay? All right, fine. So vision, or size rather, our judgment of size, our perception of size, is relative to some kind of reference point. I'm going to show you a few other things, but one of the things I want you to pay attention to as I go through this series of bits of evidence is how easy it was to manipulate the reference point, okay? All right, color. I don't have a study on this, but I think this is pretty straightforward. If you've been to any museum of modern art, you've seen something like this. Which of the blue squares is lighter, which is darker? Most people say this one is lighter and this one is darker. Of course, they're the same square. So perception of color, which you can think of as a numerical value, right? What is that? That's not hue. What's that? Tint? The lightness or darkness, is that tint? Saturation, something like that. It's something that we can actually put a number on. Your perception of that number, that value, is different depending on our reference point. And again, look at how easy it was for me to manipulate the reference point. Okay. Pitch, in terms of sound of music. So here's an experiment from 1958. 2 groups were asked to listen to a series of musical notes, and then they were asked to judge where each note lay on a piano keyboard. Okay. The first group got the notes played from the lowest to the highest, the second group from the highest to the lowest. And what we have here is, again, I want to draw my arrows right. So this is the low to high group, this is the high to low group, and they're shown the same series of notes. Now, I don't actually know what this isn't just notes from low to high, this is different notes in different phases of the experiment. And you can see that if you started with a low note, then you judge everything else to have been high relative to it, and if you started with a high note, then your valuations are lower. As an aside, and again, the same thing, very easy to manipulate the reference point. What I would like to ask you guys is this. There's something weird going on here. And it has something to do with the design of the experiment, and it happens to be something that I can't remember. And I was looking at it just before lecture as I was reviewing my notes. And I was thinking to myself, I still don't know what was going on there. So rather than me continuing to puzzle over it, I'm going to ask you guys, if you feel like you have time, this article is online, go and read it. And just as a favor to me, send me an email and tell me what the heck is going on there. Then I can explain it to everybody else. Yeah? Good? For fun. And I'll give you extra credit points towards something. Now let's start moving towards something that might look a little bit more like economics. Here's an example of reference dependence, a couple of examples of reference dependence in the domain of satisfaction or happiness. I don't know how familiar any of you are with the sort of the science or the economics of happiness. There are all kinds of surveys in which people are asked sort of their subjective well-being, how happy are you, how satisfied are you with your life, and there are a lot of people who feel like this is a better measure of people's well-being or how well society is doing than dollars or gross domestic product. So this is something that economists are starting to have to take a little bit more seriously, and here's a study that addresses the particular phenomenon we're interested in. Right, so we're starting to cross the line from psychology to economics. How happy your income makes you feel is relative. What is it relative to in particular? Well, here's a study by Erzo Lutmer. I think that's his first name. He did his own survey on people, I think, throughout America. And he asked them how happy they were. He asked them their income, and he asked them where they lived. And then based on where they lived, he linked them up to census data on the area where they lived. And he computed the average income of people in the geographic area where they lived. And then he regressed their happiness score. Right? This is usually on a Likert scale from 1 to 7. So it's a little bit unclear whether we should treat that as a true sort of cardinal scale, or whether, is the difference between 1 and a 2 the same as the difference between a 5 and a 6. We don't know, but it still tells us something. So here's what Lutmer did. He said, I'm going to take each individual... Okay, I'm going to take each individual's happiness score, and I'm going to regress it. For those of you who've taken 140 or 141, this will make perfect sense. And for those of you who don't, I'll try to explain it a bit. And I'm going to plug it into a regression where their happiness is equal to sort of some constant, which is the average, plus, let's say, beta 1 times the individual's actual income, right? So this number then tells us how much their income affects their happiness, plus some other coefficient, beta 2, times the average income in that person's geographical area, plus some random component. We say it's random. Bayesian would say it's not random at all. It's just determined by a bunch of stuff you don't observe. Fine, I don't care about that distinction. This tells us how much your income makes you happier, and this tells us how much your neighbor's income affects your happiness. Any guesses on the sign of beta 2? Negative? I hear negative. Okay, yeah? Your happiness will go down, right? So beta 2 would be negative. Now, it turns out there's some funky math you have to deal with because, in fact, Y1 is part of this, and you can't extract that from census data. But by and large, this works. And sure enough, what Lutmer found was that the average income of your neighbors decreases your happiness by more than your own income increases your happiness. Now, the implication of that turns out to be rather devastating, which is that as national per capita or per household income goes up, we get unhappier on average. This is not good news. Now, this is a rough cut, right? So don't take that to the bank. That's not proven. This is a very rough cut. This regression is very clumsy. It's the best he could do with the data he was able to get his hands on. But it's pretty convincing about the general concept, which is that we tend to judge our own wealth or status relative to those around us. Fine. I'll show you, I think, later on. Am I right about this? I think I'll show you something. Yes, in a couple of sections, I'll show you some more happiness stuff. And then the Olympic medal. Of course, you were all right. That the woman grimacing and biting her lip and trying not to fling her medal into the audience was, of course, the silver medalist and not the bronze medalist. So these folks, Medvedev, Gilic, I'm not sure how to pronounce their names, they collected video clips, I think from the 1984 at the LA Olympics, and they collected video clips of medal winners, and they asked a group of students to rate how happy each medalist appeared on a scale, I absolutely love this, from agony to ecstasy. And what they found was that a bronze on average got a 5.7 and the silver got a 4.3, which tells you that none of them was anywhere near agony or ecstasy, which is kind of reassuring. They're probably all just very tired. So what do I want to say about any of this? I do want to say there's a life lesson in this that I really want to emphasize. Here, right? So our happiness depends upon our sort of social comparison reference point. This is just an observation that I have found helpful to me in getting through my life. So I suffer from this terribly. I compare myself all the time, and I hate. This is why it's terrible for me to be a person. I'm constantly surrounded by people who are much smarter than me, and it's agonizing. I complain about it to my girlfriend all the time, and people will come to you and they will say, oh, you shouldn't compare yourself to others. It doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter. All that matters is who you are and what you have. What I have just shown you is that however right that may be philosophically, your brain is such that it's going to be very hard for you to not compare yourself to others. Okay? So just cut yourself a little slack. That's the life lesson there. Yes?
Does that result work both ways? So like if you're a little higher than your neighbor's income?
You feel better.
Okay, so if you're lower than your neighbor's income?
You feel crummy. Yes?
Okay.
I've only had one of those two experiences. I rent a very small apartment in a very wealthy neighborhood. But then I just say to myself, oh, those people, they're so rich, they're miserable. Yeah. Sorry? Well, the only evidence they had was from people on the stands, on the medal stands. So then compare them to, say, the person who was fourth. That would be you need some other methodology, right? Because these were just looking at clips of their faces at a particular point in time where they actually received the medal. So if you could find some methodology, you had to go and survey them, right? But that would be very interesting to see if the person who, like, you compare the fourth to the third and see what's going on there would be really interesting. Yeah. Well, they just went to census data, and they said, let's look at what geographic area you're in based on the census. Yeah? It's a really cool study. They did something else, which is that they then broke it down by whether you have a college degree or not, whether you have what your level of education is. And what they found is that for people who are college educated, their happiness does not depend upon the average income of non-college educated people. They only compare themselves to other college educated people, and vice versa. Okay? So apparently we're fairly specific in who we compare.